The Emoji Movie is awful movie. I will explain to you the following reasons why this movie sucks, in my opinion. 1. The basic concept of having a movie based on emojis is, while really not the worst concept, incredibly bland and confusing. The fact that the concept has a rather botched execution doesn't exactly help. 2. The film feels more like an advertisement for phone apps and smartphones. Extended into one film, as it is overloaded with product placements from real-life phone apps, this movie's usage of product placements and advertisements is just as bad, if not worse than in both Smurfs movies. Most of the products that the movie advertises include Spotify, WeChat, Facebook, Candy Crush, YouTube, Instagram, and Just Dance Now. It also tries to leech off the smartphone popular culture, even though the writers might not have done enough research about smartphone popular culture despite Sony Corporation, the parent company of Sony Pictures Animation that, therefore, owns the rights to this film, being known for their technology and spurious smartphones. On the topic of the film feeling like an advertisement for phone apps and smartphones, it is made even more blatantly obvious by Gene introducing smartphones to the audience and then describing how great emojis apparently are in the opening scene, as well as when it is being explained how to play Candy Crush after Gene, High Five, and Jailbreak arrive there before they begin playing the game to free Gene. In an interview for the film on the official YouTube channel for Sony Pictures Animation, director Tony Leondis stated that he wanted to incorporate real-life apps into the movie. While product placement can be used well in some films, it should be taken into consideration the fact that not everyone is going to like it, as some might assume they are watching an ad instead of a film. On the topic of not knowing specific details, the Emoji Movie clearly knows nothing about phones, and ironically, this comes from a studio whose parent company is better known for their technology and spurious smartphones. In the climax, when the phone is in the process of its factory reset, several apps get deleted, but after Alex unplugs the phone, the aforementioned deleted apps get restored. Upon deleting an app, it is permanently gone and there is no way of getting it back, unless you reinstall it, that is. What's worse is that the movie's tie-in novel had actually made up alternative names of the apps shown in the movie, or simply had not mentioned them at all, which makes you wonder why they didn't stick with those instead of the product placement shown. The film also portrays teenagers as phone addicts who heavily refuse to communicate with each other aside from text messages, but instead of criticizing this problem, it encourages it. 3. Many poor attempts at humor which often take forever to finish, with many of them coming across as either poorly written, immature, childish, disgusting, or unfunny. High Five throwing up a corn candy before putting it back into his mouth and later throwing it up again. The scene at the Loser Lounge depicts a fish cake emoji who sounds like a person with a disability. Many of the jokes also come across as rather stereotypical. One major example of this is in the scene with the monkey emojis in the first act, where they begin to act like, well, monkeys after their statement of how they are busy doing monkey business. Even the innuendos are scummy, particularly one shot with the elephant and dashing away emojis, which is supposed to represent how the elephant is flatulating. Some of the jokes suffer from being on the nose, with one scene depicting a shrimp emoji joining his fellow shrimp emojis in a vehicle, resembling a shrimp cocktail. Perhaps the most unfunny examples of humor hinge around the one emotion each non-Gene and non-Mel emoji character have to represent. For example, in the scene in the YouTube app, Mary states, "Don't blame me for this, Mel, I am hopping mad at you. See," and she makes a more tired face rather than an angry face. High Five even twerks for about 3 seconds in the Just Dance scene, while showing his bare butt. 4. Patrick Stewart was severely miscast as Poop, the poop emoji. Apparently, Stewart himself said that his casting was meant to be a joke. 5. The story is very unoriginal, predictable and formulaic, as it is about a misunderstood character who accepts oneself for who they are. It also features clichés used in other films, particularly the never-explained reveal of Mel having the same problem as his son, which feels rather rushed as an attempt to make audiences understand why Gene has this problem, alongside the fact that there is an ending where everyone dances as well as be yourself moral. Even High Five's motivation for joining Gene is generic, as he just wants to be popular among the other emojis once more. The movie, other than Wreck-It Ralph, the Lego Movie and Inside Out, stole the plot elements of Smurfs, The Lost Village, released 4 months earlier. Both are set in worlds where the characters have only one character trait. The main character is an outcast. They go on a journey with their friends to forbidden lands and end up with a preachy message of being yourself. Jailbreak is an obviously ripoff of Will's style from the Lego Movie. In terms of personality and character design, she also shares too much in common with Olivia Sombra Calamar from Overwatch, as both characters are notorious hackers and have skull insignia designs. 6. Almost all of the emoji characters suffer from several issues. All of the non-Gene and non-Mel emojis have rather flat characterizations, as they are only supposed to feel the emotions they represent. Almost every emoji character has this flaw, especially Mary, who mistreats her son for his problem. The characterization is also inconsistent, as every single emoji seems to express other emotions than the one that they have to do when they are used on the phone, and as a result, the entire plot is pointless. Even Smiler is inconsistently portrayed. She initially gives a be yourself advice to the other emojis, and later sees Gene as a malfunction as he is a multi-expressional emoji. Gene Meh, the main protagonist, is unlikable, and an incredibly generic and basic protagonist who wants to fit in, but has something that gets in his way. The romantic relationship between Gene and Jailbreak is also rather forced and bland. High Five is very annoying and obnoxious, even more than Chuck and Bomb from the Angry Birds movie, with regurgitating candy, adding more insult to injury, as mentioned above is a good example. It gets to the point where it makes Gene and Jailbreak likable by comparison. They also suffer from rather poor representation. Smiler is depicted as the antagonist, even though all she intended to do was to protect Textopolis from being deleted. Similarly, Gene is depicted as the main protagonist, despite him being the one responsible for most of the problems that occurred to the point where he almost caused the entire phone to have its data be wiped. Basically, the film tries to force its audience to sympathize with the protagonist and to root against the villain without giving them the usual proper characterization as a reason to do this. Not helping is that neither Gene nor Jailbreak show any mercy for Akiko Glitter and everyone else who was deleted from existence. On the topic of sympathizing with the protagonists, it was already hard to sympathize with High Five, as he was already self-centered and arrogant by the time he is introduced in the film. 7. Several scenes are rather inappropriate for a film targeted towards children, particularly when Poop nearly utters the word shit before it cuts away. 8. At several points in the film specific details in the background feel rather distracting. For example, the first scene in the film is riddled with several message bubbles which appear as the characters communicate with one another, which gets in the way of the story the film is trying to tell. Some of the details also come across as rather nonsensical, with Alex being stated to have a social security number, which is very questionable for a 14-year-old freshman in high school. 9. False advertising. Despite the heavy marketing of Poop on posters and in the trailers, this character, voiced by Patrick Stewart, only gets around 2 minutes of dialogue and doesn't even have an important role in the movie whatsoever. In the teaser trailer, Mel says, "It's my pleasure to announce our first movie," noting that this movie was intended to be the start of a franchise. However, its overwhelmingly negative reception means that any sequels will be very unlikely to happen. 10. The advertisements and the marketing look abysmal, which basically doomed the film's reputation already. Aside from the heavy marketing of Poop on posters and in the trailers, mentioned above, there was a promotional image posted on the film's Twitter account that parodied the Hulu dystopian series The Handmaid's Tale. In the image, Smiler was depicted as being the series' main character offered, with the caption, "A smartphone original," the emoji's tail and the tweet reading, "Blessed be the emoji." The image was widely criticized online for being inappropriately marketed for a film targeted towards children, as the aforementioned series involved women being forced into ritualistic sex to repopulate the country, due to the plummet of fertility rates as a result of environmental issues. Even though the tweet had since been deleted, the damage was already done due to the film's overwhelmingly negative reception. 11. The movie completely forgets about High Five's subplot of becoming a favorite once more and focuses only on Jean until the end. 12. Jailbreak claims that female emojis are being stereotyped as only princesses and brides, but it falls flat on its face upon taking into consideration there are several emojis in the film who are female, including Mary and Smiler, and yet almost none of them are princesses or brides. In fact, Smiler was even the original emoji and founder of the texting company Jean, and his friends, work at. 13. The voice acting is shockingly mediocre, even for a Sony Pictures animation film, as nearly everyone constantly underacts and sounds like as if they just want to get out of the project, except Maya Rudolph, who actually goes about overacting, CRQ 6. 14. The film feels the apparent need to spout random and dated slang, even by near late 2010 standards, especially when Jean and High Five mention #truth and #blessed. 15. Excruciating and stupid dialogue. Example, we're number 2. 16. Much of the events of the film are rather pointless, as Jean, High Five, and Jailbreak can go around the apps rather than through them to reach their destination, and thus it would have taken much less time to get there had they gone around the apps instead. This was done just to pad out the movie's runtime. What makes the story even more pointless is when it is taken into consideration that Alex will eventually decide to replace his phone with a new one. Another large portion of the story, specifically the climax, is pointless since Alex does not need tech support to wipe his phone, it is more than easy to do it himself. Even worse is that since Alex jailbroke his phone, his warranty would have been void, which should have prevented him from taking it to Wireless, the phone shop in the movie. This does not seem to be the case here. 17. There are issues with the pacing, as it has a hard time maintaining a balance between the four main subplots, focusing on Jean, Alex, Smiler, and the former's parents, ultimately resulting in several scenes being either too fast or too slow. This is extremely noticeable in the climax, which happens way too quickly. 18. Similar to Food Fight, the film unnecessarily references Casablanca, something children would not get. 19. The film wants its audience to believe that emojis are more important than actual words, which is a false moral. For example, in the opening scene, Jean basically mentions how emojis are the most important thing in the history of communication, and Alex's friend later states, words aren't cool. It is also rather hypocritical, given the film was very obviously written with words. 20. Uneven and uncanny characters designs, even for emojis standard as well, with Jean being resembling a rejection of Mike Wazowski from Monsters Incorporated, High Five looking exactly like the human hand with a face and legs, and Smiler always, well, literally just smiling no matter what. 21. Outdated references to popular culture and internet phenomena. Specifically the music video for PPAP, Pen Pineapple Apple Pen, by Picotero briefly appearing in the scene in the YouTube app. One can also clearly hear Watch Me by Silentwood briefly playing in the background during the scene in the Spotify app. 22. At one point, the film seems to preach to feminism when Jailbreak complains about how women are always coming up with stuff that men are taking credit for. As mentioned before, she also tells Jean that, did you realize that in the first emoji set, a woman can either be a princess, or a bride, for assuming that she is a stereotypical princess, which is later retconned when she calls for the Twitter bird. Later on, to save Jean, and even Mel, from getting killed. 23. The film also features some anachronisms. The hammer emoji appears as a judge's gavel during specific scenes. It resembles Apple's original graphic for the iPhone, which changed with iOS 6 in 2012. While most of the emojis in the film are part of the set standardized by Unicode, toaster, broom, and disco ball were not as of mid-2017. The fortune cookie and takeout box emojis were officially added to the Unicode standard in June 2017, a month before the movie came out. So they would not have been on phones during filming, although it is possible that they added them during the last minute. 24. Plot hole. High Five tells Jean that he needs to find the hacker emoji jailbreak if he wants to figure out how to save himself from being deleted by Smiler. When they finally meet her, however, High Five seems surprised to see that Jailbreak is a female, indicating that they never met before. How does he know who she is in the first place? 25. While the animation is very nice, solid, and fluid, in terms of overall visual design, it looks rather highly uncreative and unimaginative, and the art style looks really generic for the most part. This has no creativity to put into it as well, because of characters' designs, previously stated on number 19 pointer. 26. There's a moment in the film where Jean inflates and explodes during a nightmare sequence after being matched with yellow candies, complete with emoji blood being splattered all over Jailbreak and High Five when the camera cuts to them at the last second, despite surviving when Jailbreak really matches him with the yellow candies. This could easily scare young children, and this is especially inappropriate for a kids movie, let alone one with the lowest age rating in some countries, E.GG in Australia. However, some may find enjoyment from this moment, especially this movie's haters. 27. Abysmal directing of Tony Leondis, to the point where he ends up being won at Golden Raspberry Awards for Worst Director. 28. Overall, this film nearly ruined the reputation of Sony Pictures Animation and Sony Pictures Entertainment as a whole after the amount of backlash this film received prior to and after the film's release, which resulted in Sony Pictures Animation being widely unable to be taken seriously as a major animation studio by a large amount of people. Fortunately, the studio was able to recover from this once they released Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, which, thanks to the critical and commercial of the latter, managed to save the studio from further decline in quality. And that's all this movie Why I Hate. End of rant.